Emma Pierce believed in love, the kind of love that feels like home even on the hardest days. At 34, she had spent the last 5 years building a life with Daniel Carter, an architect she met at a mutual friend's wedding in Vancouver. He was charming without trying, confident but kind, with a smile that made her believe she was the only woman in the world. They lived in a cozy loft in downtown Seattle. Decorated with plants Emma always forgot to water and sketches Daniel left half-finished on the coffee table. Their weekends were filled with farmers markets, walks along the pier, and late-night talks about growing old together. Everyone called them the dream couple. Emma thought so too. Daniel had proposed during a snowy weekend in Aspen, on the balcony of their rented cabin, with a simple gold ring and a shaky "will you." She cried, laughed, and said yes without thinking twice. That was 2 years ago. The wedding kept getting pushed back, first because of work, then renovations, then because they wanted more time to plan. Emma wasn't in a rush. She had Daniel. That was enough. At least it used to be. Lately, something felt different. It started small. Missed calls, shorter texts, long pauses in conversations where laughter used to be. He'd come home later than usual and go straight to the shower, not bothering to ask about her day. When she made his favorite pasta, he barely touched it. He blamed deadlines, clients, stress. Emma wanted to believe him. She told herself it was just a rough patch. Every couple had them. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, like when they brushed their teeth in silence or passed each other in the kitchen without touching, Ma felt like a stranger in her own relationship. One night, while folding laundry, she found a small receipt tucked inside Daniel's jeans pocket. A dinner for two, Italian, 2 glasses of wine, dessert. It wasn't the receipt that bothered her, was the date. It was the night he told her he had a working dinner with a client from out of town. She held the paper in her hand for a long time, staring at it like it would give her the answer she didn't want. Emma didn't ask about it. She wasn't ready for what he might say. Instead, she watched him more closely. Not in a jealous way, but in the way you watch someone you love slipping away. Then came the firm's anniversary party. It was held at a rooftop bar overlooking the city. Emma wore a navy dress and heels that pinched her toes, but she didn't care. She just wanted to be by Daniel's side, to feel close again. That's when Lily walked in. Lily Matthews was the new graphic designer at the firm. She was in her late 20s with sleek dark hair, smart eyes, and an effortless elegance that turned heads when she entered the room. She smiled like she knew a secret no one else did. Daniel introduced her casually. "This is Lily. She's been doing great work for the firm," he said. Placing his hand gently on her shoulder, Emma smiled, shook her hand, and told herself it was nothing. New coworkers always came and went. But something about the way Lily looked at Daniel made her uneasy. Like they shared an inside joke. Like there was already something between them that didn't need explaining. Later that night, Emma caught a glimpse of them talking near the bar. Lily laughed at something Daniel said and touched his arm lightly. He didn't pull away. Emma looked down at her drink and tried to steady her breath. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe her mind was playing tricks on her. Still, she went home with a headache and a heavy heart. In the days that followed, her doubts grew louder. Daniel started mentioning Lily more often. Lily had a great idea for the presentation. Lily's designing the pitch deck. Lily thinks we should change the color scheme. Always casual, always offhand. Emma tried to stay calm, but each mention felt like a quiet nudge in the wrong direction. One night, they were eating takeout on the couch when she finally asked, "Are you spending a lot of time with Lily?" Daniel didn't look up from his plate. "Yeah, she's part of the team now." "Why?" Emma shrugged. "Just wondering." He gave a short laugh. "You're not jealous, are you?" "No," she said quickly. Too quickly. The next morning, he left early for work. Emma stared at the empty side of the bed and wondered if she was starting to lose someone who hadn't even left yet. She didn't want to be the insecure girlfriend who snooped or demanded answers. She wanted to trust him like she always had. But trust, once shaken, becomes fragile. A week later, Emma decided to surprise Daniel with coffee and muffins from his favorite cafe. It was a small gesture, but she missed doing things for him. She missed them. She arrived at his office around 10 a.m., balancing 2 cups and a brown paper bag. The receptionist waved her through. Everyone knew who she was. She walked down the hall toward his office, hurt light for the first time in weeks. Then she saw them, through the glass walls of the conference room. Daniel and Lily sat closer than colleagues usually did. He was showing her something on his tablet, their shoulders nearly touching. She laughed, her head tilted slightly. Eyes locked on his dot. Daniel looked up just then and saw Emma. For a split second he froze. Then he smiled polite. Distant Tan stood up to meet her. "Hey," he said, stepping out of the room. "What are you doing here?" Emma handed him the coffee. "Just thought I'd surprise you." He looked over her shoulder, then back at her. "Thanks." "I was just in the middle of—" "I saw," she said quietly. He didn't respond. She forced a smile, handed him the bag of muffins, and turned to leave. That night, Emma didn't ask questions. She didn't cry. She lay beside him in silence, staring at the ceiling. While he scrolled through emails, something had shifted. She knew it. And deep down, so did he. She once believed their love was unbreakable, that they were on the same team, that it was them against the world. But now, something else was forming, something unspoken, and Emma could feel it in her bones. She wasn't the only one in his heart anymore. Emma didn't talk much the day after she saw Daniel with Lily. She went through the motions answering emails, picking up groceries, making dinner, but inside, everything felt off. She kept playing that moment over in her mind. The way Daniel smiled at Lily, the way Lily leaned toward him like they shared something private. She didn't have proof of anything. There were no messages or photos, just looks, pauses, and instincts. But sometimes the heart sees what the eyes don't want to admit. Emma had always trusted Daniel. He wasn't the type to lie or play games. At least, he hadn't been. But now, small things were adding up. He kept his phone closer, locked it when he didn't before. He stopped asking her to meet him after work. He stopped talking about the wedding altogether. One night, she sat across from him at dinner and asked, "Do you still want to get married?" He looked surprised. "Of course. You haven't said anything about it in months." Quino set his fork down. "We've both been busy. It's not the right time to plan." Emma nodded slowly. But deep down, new people make time for what matters to them. The next few weeks felt like she was living beside someone she used to know. They still shared a home, a bed, and a routine. But the warmth was missing. The closeness was fading. He kissed her on the forehead instead of the lips. He said "love you" like it was part of a checklist. And Lily. Lily's name kept coming up. She had a smart fix for the floor plan. She stayed late to finish the render. She's really sharp clients love her. Emma started to notice patterns. Daniel would come home later on the nights Lily stayed late. His mood would lift after those days, as if he'd just had the best conversation of his week. He'd laugh at something on his phone, then quickly put it away when she walked into the room. One Friday night, Daniel said he had a team dinner. Emma didn't ask questions. She just nodded and watched him leave, wearing the cologne he used to wear on their date nights. He came back around midnight, quietly. No explanation. No details. That weekend, Emma did something she never thought she'd do. She went through his phone while he was in the shower. Her hands shook the entire time. His messages were clean, nothing obvious. But his call history showed multiple late-night calls with Lily, and not just work hours 10:30, 11 p.m., sometimes for nearly an hour. She put the phone down before he came out. Her heart ached not just from what she saw, but from who she was becoming, suspicious, anxious, sad. Emma was the kind of woman who used to laugh freely, dance barefoot in the kitchen, leave love notes on Daniel's car windshield. But lately she felt like a shadow of herself, always waiting, always wondering. The turning point came on a Tuesday afternoon. She had finished a client meeting early and decided, without planning, to stop by Daniel's office again. Part of her hoped she was wrong, that everything was still okay. that the looks, the doubts, the late nights were all in her head. She walked into the building with a cup of coffee and a quiet prayer. When she reached his floor, she saw them, Daniel and Lily, sitting close in the lounge area just outside the main workspace. His hand was resting on the back of her chair. They were laughing, completely lost in conversation. There was a softness in Daniel's eyes that Emma hadn't seen in months. She didn't walk in this time. She stood there for a moment, then quietly turned around and left. The coffee was still warm in her hand. She didn't cry until she got back into her car. Then the tears came quickly, sharp, silent, and full of realization. It wasn't just in her head. Something was happening. Whether it had turned into something physical or not didn't even matter anymore. Emotionally, he had already started slipping away. That night, Daniel came home acting normal, like everything was fine. Emma watched him from across the room and wondered if he even noticed how far they drifted. She felt like she was in a two-person play, where only one of them was still reading the P script. She decided not to confront him. Not yet. She wanted time to think. She needed to figure out what she really wanted, not just what she was afraid to lose. Emma started staying late at her own studio. She met with clients on weekends. She filled her days with work to quiet the ache inside her. But the silence at home only got louder. Then came the night he didn't come home. He texted her at 6 p.m. Late meeting. Don't wait up. No details. No apology. She sat on the couch with her dinner untouched, scrolling through old photos of them road trips, birthdays, Christmas mornings. She stared at one photo in particular, Daniel holding her hand. Both of them smiling under a tree covered in lights. He had looked at her like he couldn't believe she was his now. He barely looked at her at all. He came home after midnight again. This time, he smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. His tie was loosened, his voice quiet. She didn't ask. She just watched him walk into the bathroom and close the door. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Emma packed an overnight bag and went to her sister Rachel's apartment in Queen Anne. Rachel opened the door, saw her face, and didn't ask any questions. She just pulled her in and held her. They talked for hours over tea. Emma told her everything, the doubts, the distance, the way she felt like a ghost in her own home. Rachel didn't judge. She just listened. "You don't have to decide anything today," Rachel said. "But don't stay in something that keeps breaking you." That night, Emma felt lighter. Not because anything was fixed, but because, for the first time in weeks, she wasn't pretending everything was okay. The following day, Daniel called, twice, left a message. "Where are you? Call me." She didn't answer. When she returned home a day later, he was waiting. He looked relieved when he saw her. "Emma, I've been worried. Why didn't you answer my calls?" She set her bag down slowly. "I needed space." He walked closer. "Is something going on? Are we okay?" She looked at him, really looked at him. "I don't know. You tell me." Daniel paused. His eyes dropped. He didn't speak right away, and that silence told her more than words ever could. Daniel stood in front of her, silent. Emma waited, but he said nothing. The pause between them was heavy. Not angry, just tired. Like too many things had already been said in their silences. "Was there something between you and Lily?" she finally asked. He looked away. "I didn't plan it. It just happened." Her heart dropped. Even though she already knew, hearing it from his mouth still hurt. Daniel took a slow breath. "We were working late a lot, talking. She understood things I couldn't always explain. It felt easy. I didn't mean to hurt you." Emma nodded. It was strange she didn't cry. There were no loud arguments, just the dull ache of confirmation. The truth had arrived, and it didn't come with fireworks. Just clarity. "I was yours," she said quietly. "I thought I was the only one." "You were," he replied too quickly. "You are?" "No," she said, meeting his eyes. "If I was, she wouldn't have had space." He stepped closer. It didn't mean anything, but it had. It meant something to her, something to them. And even if it hadn't turned into a full affair, the emotional lines had already been crossed. And Emma felt it every time he looked at someone else with eyes that used to be hers. He reached for her hand. This time, she didn't pull away. But she didn't hold on either. She needed space to think. Not because she didn't love him, but because she finally remembered she loved herself too. Over the next few days, Emma moved into her sister's apartment. She didn't rush to decide what to do. She went to work, kept busy, and sat with her feelings instead of avoiding them. Rachel reminded her that it was okay to feel everything at once. Love, betrayal, sadness, confusion. Daniel called often, sent messages, left long voicemails. He admitted to crossing lines with Lily emotionally, but insisted it had never gone further. He said he wanted to fix things, that Emma was the one he wanted to marry, that it was just a mistake, not a replacement. But the thing about trust is once it's broken. Even the truth feels hard to believe. Emma spent time walking alone in the evenings. She'd pass couples on the sidewalk and wonder how many of them were happy, and how many were just pretending like she had been. A week later, Daniel asked to meet in person. They sat on a park bench overlooking the water, the wind cool against their skin. "I've ended things with Lily," he said. "There was nothing official, but I cut off all contact. I told her I couldn't do this, that I wanted to be with you." Emma didn't react. She stared at the horizon, calm but distant. "I want to fight for us," he continued. "I know I messed up. I got distracted. I took you for granted. I stopped seeing how much you gave me every single day." She finally looked at him. "Why did you fall for her?" Daniel hesitated. "She didn't know me yet. She didn't expect anything from me. It felt simple." Emma nodded. That was the truth, and it hurt. Not because Lily was better, but because she was new, a clean slate. No responsibilities, no history, no reality. "She got your attention," Emma said, her voice steady. "But I gave you everything else." He looked down. "I loved you fully, Daniel," she said. "I was loyal to you even in the small things. I protected your name when you weren't around. I believed in your dreams. I waited through your late nights, your moods, your stress, hoping we'd find each other again." "I know," he whispered. Emma stood up slowly. "But love shouldn't leave you begging to be seen." He reached for her arm. "So that's it? I don't hate you," she said. "I just don't recognize us anymore. And I'm tired of trying to hold together something that you let slip away." He looked at her like he was about to cry, but the tears didn't come. That night, Emma returned to Rachel's apartment and began making new plans, not out of anger, but peace. She started looking for a place of her own. A small one-bedroom with big windows and quiet corners. Daniel tried to stay involved, offering to help, asking for second chances, but Emma knew she needed space to breathe on her own. She wasn't saying never, but she was saying not now. As weeks passed, the distance grew. Daniel kept reaching out at first, but then less and less. And Lily, she didn't stay long after Emma left. Whether she had feelings or just enjoyed the attention, it didn't matter. That connection faded quickly once the lines became real. Emma, on the other hand, started remembering who she was before the heartbreak. She picked up painting again, started reading late into the night, took weekend trips on her own with no schedule, no expectations. She laughed more, not because everything was perfect, but because healing had begun. Months later, Emma opened a small design studio with a friend. It was something she'd always dreamed of but kept putting off. Now, she was doing it for herself, not to prove anything, just to live fully again. Then one afternoon, in a cozy cafe in Portland, she met someone new. His name was James, a quiet soul with kind eyes and a calming presence. He wasn't flashy or overly charming, just steady, present, real. They talked about books, music, and their favorite coffee flavors. Nothing big, just honest moments. And for the first time in a long time, Emma didn't feel like she had to prove her worth. She felt seen. They didn't rush anything. Emma was careful. She had learned how important it was to protect her peace. But slowly, day by day, she opened her heart again, not because she needed someone, but because she was ready. And Daniel. He wrote her one last letter, handwritten, no begging, no blame, just closure. "I'll always be sorry," he wrote, "and I'll always remember the way you loved me." Emma smiled gently when she read it. Then she folded it, tucked it away, and moved forward. Because in the end, this wasn't just a story about betrayal. It was a story about about letting go of what no longer fits, about choosing yourself even when it hurts, and about learning that the right love won't make you guess your place in someone's heart. Love, when it's real, won't feel like a fight you have to keep losing to win. It will feel like coming home. On a cold spring evening in Seattle, Cameron Hayes stayed late at his marketing agency, alone except for the hum of computers and distant streetlights. He was tapping through slides, editing copy, trying to keep his mind busy so he wouldn't think of home. His life had grown quiet in ways he hadn't expected. When did the small talk with Melissa fade into silence? When did her laugh stop being his favorite sound? He glanced at his phone. No new messages. "No, how's your day?" From her, just a blank screen. He sighed, shutting his laptop, determined to finish the last revisions before heading out as he packed up. Claire Reynolds knocked on the glass partition between their desks. "Hey," she said softly. "Still here?" Claire was the new creative strategist on his team. Confident, efficient, with a kind face that invited conversation. She'd come from another city, bringing fresh ideas and a warmth that brightened dull offices. Cameron forced a polite smile. "Yeah, I wanted to wrap this campaign tonight." She stepped inside his space. "Need help?" she asked. Her voice wasn't flirtatious. It was gentle. He nodded. She sat beside him, and they sorted through the designs together. As they worked, Claire asked questions about his vision for the campaign, about his opinions. She listened when he spoke, truly listened. The contrast between her attention and the silence waiting for him at home pressed on him after they polished the last slide. Claire suggested grabbing coffee at the cafe around the corner. It was late, but open. Cameron hesitated, thinking of Melissa, but something urged him to say yes. "Okay," he said. "One coffee." They walked under empty streets, the city lights reflecting on wet pavement. Inside the cafe, they picked a small table. Claire ordered tea. He took black coffee. They talked, not work, but life. Dream cities they wanted to visit. Books they loved. What drew them to Seattle? Cameron felt the walls around him loosen just a little. When the cafe's lights dimmed toward closing, they stepped out together. Rain began to fall gently. Claire offered her jacket, but Cameron refused. He walked with his hands in pockets. They paused beneath a street lamp. Claire said, "You always tell me what you think about campaigns, but never what you dream for yourself." He looked at her and felt his throat tighten. He wanted to answer, but the words stuck. "I used to draw," he said. "I haven't done that in years." Claire smiled, sad and understanding. They stood there, watching raindrops stream past the lamp. Two people feeling something shift. He returned home late that night. Melissa was asleep. He tiptoed past her, not wanting to wake her. As he slipped in bed, he stared at the ceiling. Guilt and longing warred inside him. He didn't betray her, not yet, but he felt pulled. The next morning, he made breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee, something small. Melissa shuffled in, tired hair, mussed from sleep. She smiled at him, trying to ignite warmth in the routine. "Morning," she said. Cameron handed her a plate. Silence stretched between them. He wanted to talk, to confess, but he swallowed the words. Over the next week. Cameron and Claire met on small pretexts. She needed help brainstorming. He asked her to review a campaign draft. They'd stay after hours. The more time they spent, the more Cameron realized how depleted he was at home. He listened harder when Claire spoke. He laughed more freely. She asked gentle questions about his marriage, and he answered honestly. "We're drifting," he told her. "I don't know how to reach her anymore." Claire didn't judge. She just nodded. She told him she understood emptiness, that it scared her too. Sometimes she felt invisible in her own life. He looked at her then and saw she was carrying her own loneliness. He thought his pain was solitary, but it wasn single quotes T. One afternoon, after work. Claire invited him to an art gallery show downtown. He almost said no. He'd told Melissa he had reports to file. But something inside him pushed him to accept. He told Melissa he'd be late and left quietly. At the gallery, they walked among muted paintings, soft lights, hushed voices. They talked about color, feeling, what the artist tried to say. In one room, Claire paused before a painting of a woman staring out a window, raindrops on glass. She said, "This feels like a soul waiting for warmth." Cameron felt stuck in that image. He realized that woman could be him, or Melissa. Or Claire, anyone yearning to be seen. They left the gallery together and walked back under streetlights. The air was soft with rain's breath. Claire turned to him. "I don't expect anything," she said. "But I want you to know you're seen." Cameron's chest tightened. He wanted to tell her the same, but the words stayed hidden. They parted at the corner, each walking away with heavier hearts than before. Back home, Melissa had left a note. "I miss you. When can we talk?" Cameron froze. The note felt like a bridge or a burden. He wasn't sure. He carried it with him into the next day, unable to read more. At work, he found Claire waiting by his desk. She looked at him with knowing eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. He nodded, though inside things were fracturing. One evening, Melissa confronted him softly at dinner. "You've been different," she said. Her voice wasn't angry, just broken. Cameron didn't know what to say. He wanted to tell her truth, but the shape of it had shifted. "I'm tired," he said instead. "I feel disconnected." Melissa reached across the table, took his hand. "So do I," she whispered. The air trembled between them. They sat in silence, facing a love eroded by time and silence. But even as guilt pressed on him, Cameron felt clarity. Something inside him was waking again, an ache for connection, for honesty, for a path he hadn't known he needed. That night, he lay awake again, thinking of Claire's eyes, Melissa's touch, and the sharp divide between them. He realized the line was thinner than he thought, and he wondered how long before someone crossed it. Part 2 picks up right after Melissa leaves the note in the kitchen and reveals that she knows something is wrong. The tension is thick in the air, sharp and unexpected. Cameron wakes up feeling the weight of that note as if it started the day already late. He gets ready, but every task feels heavier than it should. At work, his mind drifts to Melissa's quiet strength, to Claire's eyes. Every word from Claire in the last few weeks replays in his mind. Claire senses the shift. She arrives at the office early that morning. She and Cameron exchange a brief good morning, but the tone is different, quieter, loaded. As they begin work, the usual banter is replaced by cautious glances. Both avoid asking too much, afraid of answers. Midday, Claire asks for a meeting in the conference room. Under the pretext of reviewing campaign results, inside, papers lie spread out, screens displaying graphs. But the air is not businesslike. She says, "I felt lately we're both trying to be parts of things that don't fit." Her voice shakes just slightly. Cameron nods, knowing exactly what she means. He takes a breath. "I care about you, Claire. But I also care about my marriage. I'm lost." Claire listens, her eyes filling with understanding and sadness. She responds, "I didn't want to cross lines. I didn't want to be the cause of pain. But I can't pretend nothing's happening." They both sit in silence. The meeting ends without consensus. They return to their desks, both changed. After work, Cameron drives home. Rain begins. He wants to call Melissa. He wants to tell her the truth. But he also fears it. Fear of hurting her, of causing a rupture. He parks the car, sits for a moment in the dark, watching raindrops slip down the windshield. Then he doesn't call. He goes home. Inside, the house is quiet. Melissa is cooking. The smell of something familiar, warm. Cameron walks in and leans against the doorframe. Melissa looks up, offering a faint smile. "You're home late," she says. Cameron forces a smile back. "Had to finish something?" They eat dinner in quiet. Utensils on plates. He watches her eyes. She tries to seem normal. She talks about her shift at the hospital. He nods. He listens. But every few seconds, he catches his reflection in the window, tired, split between two emotions. Over the next few days, the strain grows. Melissa starts asking small questions. You seem distant. Everything okay at work? Cameron answers carefully, half-truths. He doesn't tell her about Claire meeting him in the conference room. He doesn't tell her about the moment Claire said she couldn't pretend. He tries to reconnect at home, suggests watching a movie, going for a walk, but Melissa declines or seems too tired. Their silence returns, but now with guilt layered in. Meanwhile, Claire continues being supportive at work. She shows up early, stays late, helps Cameron with slides and brainstorming. Their conversation grows deeper. One day they share lunch at a small cafe. It's just two people, but the emotional undercurrent is strong. Claire shares something about her own past, a time she felt invisible, a time she lost trust in herself. Cameron shares bits too, about Melissa, about the distance. He tries to stop himself from saying more than safe, but he dequates two after lunch. They walk back in drizzle. Claire apologizes softly. This isn't fair to you or to her. Cameron says nothing. He knows she means it, but something in him also wants to hold on to the support she offers. The seeing, the empathy, because he feels lost. Then comes the gallery opening night, a moment already foreshadowed. Cameron had told Melissa he'd have a late work meeting. Instead, he meets Claire at the opening. The artwork, raw portraits, and abstract emotion pulls at him. He sees pieces that feel like his own heart, torn between loyalty and longing. Claire points at a painting of two figures reaching toward each other but separated by shadow. She says quietly, "This is us." Cameron turns. He sees both the truth in that and the danger. They leave and walk in dim streetlight. The air smells of rain and pavement. Claire stops. She says maybe things changed. Cameron's chest tightens. He wants to tell her he feels it too, but fear closes his mouth. They part without touch, without promise. The ache remains. Back home, Melissa is awake. She offers him tea. He sits, confused. He wants to tell her everything, but the risk of breaking her heart holds him back. She asks him simply, "Are you okay?" He nods, though he isn't. That night, alone, Cameron lies awake. Memories flood. Early days with Melissa, laughter, closeness. Then darker days of silence. Then Claire's kindness. He wonders who he's becoming. Claire texts him later. "I wish things were different." Melissa leaves another note. "I want to believe we still can be us." Cameron sits between the phone and the fridge's light, unable to decide what to say, what to do first, who to share truth with. The walls between hearts are closing in. One step more, and everything could fall. After weeks of tension, Cameron knew the moment had come. The walls he held up between himself, Melissa, and Claire were too worn to stand. The late nights, the secrets, the distance, they all demanded a reckoning. He arranged a meeting at a quiet cafe in the evening, telling Melissa he needed to talk. He also invited Claire, saying he wanted to be honest. The cafe was small and dim, with warm lights and few people inside. Cameron arrived first, his heart pounding. He sat at a round table near the window, watching the rain fall outside. He carried the weight of every choice, every silence, every promise unkept. He told himself this was for truth, not for escape. Melissa came in next, looking steady and composed despite the tension in her eyes. She sat across from him, hands folded. After a moment, Claire entered, hesitating at the doorway. Her eyes found Cameron's and then Melissa's. She walked slowly to the table. No introduction, no apologies. A presence that shifted the room. Cameron cleared his throat. "Thank you both for coming," he said. "I know this is hard, but I can't continue hiding things. I want honest and no lies tonight." Melissa nodded. Claire's face was calm but vulnerable. Cameron began. He spoke first to Melissa. He told her how lonely he had felt, how he had shut her out without meaning to. He admitted that Claire's kindness had filled a gap he hadn't known was there. His voice trembled when he confessed the line he nearly crossed. The emotional moments he shared with Claire's tolling glances, late work conversations, shared dreams. Melissa listened. Her expression didn't break into anger. Instead, she looked sad and weary, as someone who had loved and lost bits of herself over time. When Cameron paused, she spoke. "I have felt invisible too," she said. "I thought we were drifting apart, but I hoped we could find a way back." Claire swallowed. She looked between them. "I never meant to break your marriage," she said. "I was caught in something I didn't recognize at first. But I cared deeply for both of you, maybe more deeply than I should." The words hung in the air. The rain outside softened, tapping lightly on windows as though nature waited too. Melissa took a deep breath. "Maybe we all have parts to heal." She turned to Claire. "I don't hate you. I don't deny your pain. If we move forward, I want honesty, not secrets." Cameron felt relief and fear in the same breath. He nodded. "I will be honest. No more hiding." They sat in silence, three broken people staring at each other. No one knew how to fix it. But in that raw moment, a fragile possibility formed. Maybe truth and respect could come before decisions. Over the next days, their lives shifted. Cameron asked for leave from work to spend evenings at home, talking with Melissa. He encouraged Claire to focus on her projects outside his life. They all faced the difficult question: can trust rebuild when walls have fallen? Melissa and Cameron began couples therapy. They cried, they argued, they remembered why they fell in love. Melissa shared how the silence wounded her. Cameron apologized for drifting and hiding. He pledged to see her again, to value the small moments they once shared. Claire retreated for a time. She took a trip to visit family to clear her mind. She wrote in her journal about love, mistakes, boundaries. She realized she needed distance to heal and to allow Melissa and Cameron to rebuild. When Claire returned, Cameron and she met one last time. They sat in the same cafe where the confession began. They spoke softly. Claire thanked him for honesty. Cameron thanked her for bringing truth, even if painful. They parted with a quiet hug and no promises. In time, Melissa and Cameron made small progress. They walked together, held hands, rediscovered laughter. The wounds didn't vanish overnight. They stayed tender, but the openness between them grew, and they started planning small things: dinners, art nights, movie walks. Cameron continued working, but no more after-hours secrets. He refused extra shifts that meant hiding. His loyalty changed from avoidance to presence. One evening, months later, Cameron and Melissa sat in their living room by a single lamp. Photos of better times lined a shelf. Soft music played. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He held her hand gently, as though relearning how to touch. No words were needed. Claire's presence faded into a memory. Not a betrayal, but a crossroads that forced truth. She lived in their story now as someone they once entwined with, not an enemy. But a part of what led them back to each other, Cameron sometimes thought of Claire. The way she understood him, the way she listened when no one else did. He didn't regret the honesty. He regretted the distance he once allowed with Melissa. He learned that love needs tending, not silence. Melissa, in turn, learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. She opened up more, shared her fears, asked for affection. She no longer waited for him to find her. She let him in. Their marriage didn't become perfect. It was raw, fragile, but alive. And they decided together it was worth saving. In the quiet night, Cameron looked at Melissa and whispered softly, "Thank you for staying." She breathed into his shoulder. And in that silent space, they rebuilt something real.